Good day, everyone. I'm Mai Taklan, and my report will cover Module 7 Summary Some Principles of Online Writing by Tom Quinn. The first principle is to serve the reader. The reader has come to your site because they have something to do and need information to do it. The first thing you need to consider is to try to find your niche or the category you want to write for. Then work to identify who your target audience is. And how do you do that? You can do it by employing a front end analysis. It should be performed to identify and understand who your intended audience is. Then, after that, you need to also comprehend what they need to do, which then leads you to tailoring your content to serve their objectives. And lastly, to understand and ask yourself in advance the questions that they might have and hopefully provide the answers before they even have to ask it. The second one is to cut information overhead. What is information overhead? It's unusable information that you need to plow through, that you need to uh, dig deep through to get to your usable information that you are really after, that you want to your message to contain. So, document overhead includes fluff, introductory paragraphs that say nothing, words and colors that tell you nothing, graphics that serve no purpose other than decoration, icons whose meanings are unclear, any forms of dishonesty, misinterpretation, or falsehood. Here are some of the examples. I found 3 websites that use too much graphics, have too much paragraphs, just too much of everything. It's very overwhelming. As you can see, a rainbow, even some of the websites do not have any branding at all. And you can see some random graphics that serve no purpose, like a door, a ladder, and so much more. This is just too much. Which leads us to the third one, which is to keep it short. So, with the shorter attention spans of people nowadays, we should keep everything simple and short. On screen reading is hard on the eyes, and we do not want to be resented by our visitors by having to scroll through long paragraphs of text. So we need to keep the paragraph short, ideally down to 1 or 2 sentences, which sentences need to be concise. So we need to also avoid complex constructions, avoid semicolons, sentences with 2 or more clauses, and as much as possible, convert longer sentences into bulleted lists. The next one is it's actually related to the shorter attention spans of people again. We need to make it scannable. You cannot force your reader to keep clicking and creating new tabs or having to scroll through so much text when reading something. We need to make sure that there are visual clues that would lead the reader straight to the information that they are looking for. Visual clues include subheads, headers, bullets, numbers, highlighted text, and navigational images such as arrows or cursors. The fifth one is to use graphics sparingly. We know that a picture tells 1,000 words. However, in online writing, we should only use pictures, charts, tables, and other graphics when they're needed, where they serve to convey the information quickly and effectively than text. Again, emphasis on graphics must serve content. Graphics for ornamentation or decoration is quite distracting. Here are 2 examples of websites that make no sense at all because of graphic overload. You can see one has random shapes, random columns, and the other has just too much going on, too much background. All you can see is a pictures of him. If you don't look clearly at his heading links cars, you wouldn't know that he is actually leasing and selling cars. So we need to choose the graphics wisely. The sixth principle is in relation to the fifth one. Do not allow the page design to interfere with the message. Writing and presenting online goes hand in hand. Again, we need to lead the reader straight to the message without having them to stop and think about why the visual design is like this. We need to make the design as transparent as a pane of glass. And our reference continues to explain that if the visitor has to stop and think, why is the text red with a blue background? Why did they choose this font? They're looking at the glass and not seeing what's behind it. If the glass is an obstacle between the reader and the message, that probably means the glass is dirty. We need to clean it up. All right. Next, number 7 is to don't allow writing style to interfere with the message. As writers, we have our own writing styles. However, we do not need to compromise. Just remember that we don't write in any way that is meant to serve our ego. We should remain or continue to serve your site visitor or the reader. We need to set clear goals and intentions regarding the materials that we publish. Are you writing to show off that you know highfalutin words, or do you want your message to be understood by your readers? Because if the reader has to stop and ask themselves, why did they choose to write this way? Then you failed. The message has not been received. The 8th principle is to layer information. It's the art of putting significant information in short form with very little explanation on the part where the online visitor can see it easily. However, you should also provide links or a path that would lead the readers or allow them to dig deeper for more detail should they feel the need to. Because layering information actually empowers the visitor. This lets your content serve both highly experienced visitors who are quite familiar with the subject and novices who might need longer explanations of background concepts or theories. Number 9 is to chunk information. So, this is to group information into a logical or bite sized pieces. A chunk of information should try to answer a single question on a single topic, which made me remember and from our one lesson from our DevC 202 class, which is the human brain can only consume up to 7 chunks of information per sitting. So anything more than this would cause information overload. Therefore, it would be a barrier for communication. We must group information in a logical manner that focuses on one thing at a time. Number 10 is to structure your information. We should aim to structure our messages well to ensure that our audiences are able to absorb them efficiently. We need to make sure that the structure of the message is visible. Number 11 is to get to the point. So, just like in news writing, we need to create a good lead that would make them continue reading. Put the key paragraph first, and in that paragraph, put the key sentence. In that sentence, put the key concept, which will then let the reader decide whether they want to read further or not. So I chose this photo or screenshot of a website by Jessica Hish. She's an artist and New York Times bestseller. She also creates, she mainly creates typography and publishes books as well. So all of the important information about her can be seen on the landing page of her website. So if you are into typography or any other topic, then you would decide to read on, continue reading. Okay. The 12th one is to engineer an efficient pathway to the information your audience is seeking. Get your audience to the information that they're looking for in the shortest amount of time possible, and they will be thankful. So, according to a blog by HubSpot, planning out intuitive navigation on your site is important to help visitors to find what they're looking for quickly. So, a visitor ideally should land on the site and not have to think too much about where to click, where to go next. So, moving from point A to point B should be as smooth as possible. We shouldn't make the visitors dig too deep. So this photo is an example of a wireframe map that shows the structure of or the path of a website. The second to the last one is to test everything. No matter what you've written or how good of a writer you are, you can always learn from a review by a second set of eyes. Let others review your work. Let it be examined from a different perspective just to ensure that the message you intend will be well received, or will there be any changes or anything like that. And the last one is to take a lesson from George Orwell, who is one of the greatest essayists of the 20th century. He said, the reference says, memorize this advice and use it every time you need to write. So, what is his advice? However, before we read his advice, I want to read a blog entry by Phil Rosen, which he states that Orwell maintains that good writing is clear writing, and that anything less than clear writing isn't good writing. The best writers are those who don't need big words or complicated language to prop up ideas or give off an impression of intellect. Again, clear writing. Let's go back to George Orwell's Elementary Rules of Style. The first one is never use a metaphor, simile, or other figure of speech which you are used to seeing in print. Never use a long word where a short one will do. If possible to cut out a word, always cut it out. Never use the passive where you can use the active. Never use a foreign phrase, a scientific word, or a jargon if you can think of an everyday English equivalent. Lastly, break any of these rules sooner than say anything outright barbarous. And that is the end of my report. Here are the references that I used, the sources of the images I displayed. And my discussion question, I only have one, is what are some of your favorite sites or blogs that you believe follow all or maybe most of the principles in this report? Kindly share the links for reference in our discussion forum. So that's it. Thank you so much for participating. I look forward to your answers and see you soon.